In many rural regions of Africa and South Asia, there is one predator that silently rules the night. This is a creature powerful enough to take down large animals, yet so quiet it can walk past a sleeping village without making a single sound. This is the leopard, a true master of stealth, agility, and patience. While most predators avoid humans, leopards have learned to live dangerously close to villages, slipping in and out like shadows in the dark. Our story begins in a small farming village, surrounded by dense forest and rocky hills. For generations, the people here have lived peacefully with nature. Their days were spent tending cattle, collecting firewood, and growing crops. But recently, something changed. Every morning, villagers started waking up to the same signs: fresh pawprints in the dust, claw marks on wooden fences, and sometimes the sound of animals panicking just before dawn. Rumors began to spread that a leopard had started sneaking into the village at night. At first, most people didn't believe it. Leopards are incredibly secretive animals, rarely showing themselves. But the evidence grew stronger each day. Chickens disappeared from their coops without a trace. Goats that slept outside suddenly went missing. The village dogs barked all night long, sensing something the humans couldn't see. Fear slowly spread through the community, especially among families with small children. The leopard wasn't attacking people. It was after livestock an easier, safer meal compared to hunting deep in the forest. With crops failing and natural prey becoming scarce, the predator had learned that villages offered food with far less effort. And every successful visit made the leopard bolder. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, the villagers gathered to talk. They needed to understand the pattern. The leopard always came after midnight. It always approached from the same side of the forest, and it always targeted smaller animals. But no one could guess where it hid during the day or how close it truly was. As darkness spread across the village, the usual calm of nighttime changed into a tense silence. A faint breeze moved through the trees, carrying the distant sound of crickets. Families locked their doors. Livestock were brought into sheds. Guards lit small fires around the outer edges of the village, hoping the flames would keep the predator away. Hours passed with nothing but silence. And then suddenly, the dogs began barking furiously. Their howls echoed through the night. Something was moving in the shadows. Something large, quiet, and confident. The leopard approached from the north side of the village, where the forest met the farmlands. It moved low to the ground, each step perfectly placed to avoid dry leaves and twigs. Its brilliant yellow eyes scanned the huts, the sheds, the fences. It listened for anything weak or unprotected. Leopards don't waste energy. They pick their target very carefully. The predator paused behind a stack of firewood. Just a few meters away stood a small wooden goat shed. Inside, the goats were restless. They sensed the danger long before any human did. The leopard lowered its body, pressing itself flat against the ground. Its tail flicked quietly. It was getting ready. But at that exact moment, a man from the village walked out of his hut to check on his animals. He carried a lantern and a stick, completely unaware that a full-grown leopard was hiding just a short distance away. The light from the lantern glowed through the air, and for a brief second, it illuminated the leopard's face. The man froze. The leopard remained completely still. Neither moved. The moment passed. The man slowly backed away, careful not to make any sudden sounds. He rushed back to the huts and shouted a warning. Within minutes, several villagers came out with torches, yelling loudly to scare the animal away. Leopards hate unnecessary confrontation. They prefer silence, secrecy, and darkness. So the predator carefully retreated into the shadows and disappeared back into the forest. But the story didn't end there. For the next several nights, the leopard kept returning. It studied the village like a hunter planning a perfect strategy. It watched from the treetops. It followed the same paths again and again, leaving just enough clues for the villagers to feel its presence, but never enough for them to find it. One night, thick clouds covered the moon, making the village darker than usual. this was the leopard's advantage. It moved faster, more boldly, slipping between huts, climbing over walls, and landing silently on rooftops, scanning everything from above. At one point, the predator crouched on a mud roof, listening to the sound of a baby crying inside a hut. It didn't attack, it was just curious. Leopards are incredibly intelligent animals, capable of recognizing human activity. After a moment of observation, it moved on. The real target tonight was deeper in the village, a small cattle shed that held 3 young calves. Calves make easy prey, especially for a leopard hunting alone. Inside the shed, the animals sensed the danger. They moved nervously, bumping into each other. The leopard approached the door, pressing its whiskers forward to detect any movement. It lifted a paw, testing the wooden frame. One more push, and it could slip inside. But just before the predator acted, a young boy from the village woke up from a nightmare. He heard the sound of hooves kicking against the shed walls. He shook his father awake. The boy's fear gave the villagers just enough time to react. Several men stepped out with burning torches. The bright flames lit up the entire area. The leopard let out a low growl, not of aggression, but of pure irritation. The plan was ruined. With one powerful leap, it jumped over a 6-foot wall and disappeared behind a cluster of trees. By the time the villagers reached the forest edge, the predator was long gone. The next morning, frustration grew. The villagers needed a solution. Some suggested setting traps. Others wanted to chase the leopard far into the hills. But there were elders in the village who understood the animal. They explained that leopards only come to villages when their natural food supply disappears. The real problem was deeper in the forest. Issues like fires, deforestation, and shrinking habitats were pushing them out. But convincing everyone in a moment of fear was not easy. That night, the tension reached its peak. People stayed awake, ready for anything. Hours went by with no sign of danger. And then, right before dawn, the leopard made its boldest move yet. It slipped through the narrowest passage between 2 huts, climbed onto a storage shed, and crouched in absolute stillness. The entire village slept, completely unaware that the predator was sitting silently right above them. It stayed there for nearly 20 minutes, listening, watching, waiting. The calm of early morning gave the leopard confidence. It climbed down and walked toward the livestock area for one final attempt. But this time, the villagers were prepared. They had tied metal cans together and strung them around the sheds. When the leopard brushed against them, the loud rattling sound echoed across the silent village. The dogs began barking. Doors flew open. Torches lit up the dark. Dozens of eyes turned toward the predator. The leopard stood still for a moment, realizing it had been outsmarted. Slowly, with calm, controlled movements, it stepped backward, then turned and melted into the forest once again. From that night forward, the leopard stopped coming. The noise traps, the torches, and the constant vigilance made the village too troublesome for hunting. The predator moved deeper into the hills, returning to its natural territory where it could hunt freely again. The story of the leopard and the village is a powerful reminder of something important. Humans and wildlife often live much closer than we realize. Leopards are not monsters, they are survivors, adapting to a world that keeps shrinking around them. When the forest disappears, they come looking for food wherever they can find it. And in the end, it's often fear and misunderstanding that bring conflict. But this time, neither the villagers nor the leopard were harmed. It was a brief, silent clash between humans and the wilder, mysterious visitors slipping in and out of a peaceful village, reminding everyone that the line between our world and theirs is much thinner than it seems. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.